How about Doug?
Doug?
Oh, hi. This is Charlotte Pierce. I'm one of the enthusiastic participants in the Peeragogy project. Producer of one of the publishers of the Peeragogy Handbook, which has come out of this project, and we meet on Mondays, every Monday at 1 o'clock, unless there's some outstanding pressure not to. So we welcome anyone who's listening and to participate. We're trying to develop a new way of getting people on board with Peeragogy, which is not something we discovered. We just kind of floating the salient pieces of it to the surface with the project. And there's a new dashboard that Fabrizio Terzi has developed out of Italy. And Joe, you've been involved with that. Are we going to get into that today?
We can look at it. You're interested in that, I know, and others have been quite interested. Maybe you should, yeah, let's have a look. Where's the current link?
Do you want me to try and screen share that?
I can, because I don't have a camera.
Oh, you don't? Okay.
There, so I can screen share it.
Yeah, the thing, I may be in a minority, but I think that getting people on board, or finding a good way to sort of acquaint them with the twists and turns and projects that are going on with Peeragogy is the dashboard's really going to be helpful for that. Since we've been involved for 3 years, it's hard for us to know how confusing it looks from the outside.
There it is. It's blown up to some kind of gigantic.
Doug, why don't you, while Joe gets that ready, do you want to introduce yourself and we can kind of go around? I know we have a new victim today.
Yeah, I'm Doug Breitbart, and I've been a gadfly of the Peeragogy project from the beginning, and was responsible for a metacognition contribution that I think ended up relatively diminished, but still mighty in its territorial value. Mm-hmm. And I'm sort of officially a catalyst and provocateur in this community.
And proud to be one.
And proud to be one.
Hey, Jim, I've seen you around, but I don't think you've ever been on the...
I don't think I've made it to this call in the past. I think I linked up with this about a year or so ago, coming out of one of Howard's efforts, and I'm in the midst of Jay Cross has got a new project he's doing on do-it-yourself learning, and that sort of prompted me to reconnect to this. So I thought
I'd love to hear more about that. Yeah, I love Jay. I've been on his sessions.
He's sort of, I think he's just pitching the idea that,
I
think most of us would agree with it, that all the learning or most of the learning we're going to get involved with in the foreseeable future is going to be more do-it-yourself than it has conventionally been in the past.
Mm-hmm.
He's sort of trying to pull together some of the, what he knows, package it up. Now, if memory serves, Jay's has sort of cycled in and out of this project from time to time as well. So.
Yeah.
Sure.
So I'm here to listen today, and I've turned the webcam off because it just uses up bandwidth that I don't necessarily have. Well, the audio will suffice.
Well, I like the pulsing circle. That's pretty cool. We've got a couple more. We've got Lisa. We got Paula. Lisa's muted, but Paula's here. And
hi.
Hola.
Hola.
¿Cómo estás?
Muy bien.
¿De dónde eres?
Soy de Ecuador.
Soy de Ecuador. Ah.
I'm from Ecuador.
¿Ahora?
Ahora estoy en México.
Oh, bueno. Gracias. Putting up with my bad Spanish.
Yeah. We need to start making more meetings in Spanish. As I've said before, it's the best way to get me to be very quiet. Is having I really like that.
Oh,
So,
Charlie.
Charlie, how are you doing?
He's muted. He's probably in that noisy cafe.
Starbucks. Right down the street from John, though.
Charlie and Lisa, you want to say anything? And Joe, are you ready with your little...
Oh, sorry. Yes, I can screen share now.
I'll screen share something too, just for fun.
Yeah, so maybe you have to do it because my computer's being strange. Let me try again. Screen share. Screen share. There we go.
So you were suggesting that in the next couple of days we process those comments from the pattern catalog.
Couple days
Article.
Is like ASAP. I have that on another tab here, so I can just click on another tab. But yeah, so here's the dashboard. So John, you're the newest person to this meeting. If you browse over to our handbook page, if you just go to peeragogy.org, there is a link at the top that links you to the dashboard. But if it's it may start talking to you.
I call it Peeragogy Polly.
Peeragogy Polly. Okay, she'll talk to you. But here's a link that Lisa just put in, and yeah, it will kind of give you this visual guide to what's there. And if you say, okay, just narrow things down to say getting started, you can click on that, and then you get right over to the quick start guide.
That's funny, man.
It's a version of it. I'm not quite sure who's talking. Someone's talking.
Polly.
Hello, Julia. Welcome back.
Oh, Julia.
Hi.
You can chat in Spanish.
Yeah,
Just visiting, and want to hear what are you doing these days.
So Fabrizio has made this great dashboard, which is here.
Mm-hmm.
And
We have so many people on. Like maybe if anybody has a headset, it'd be the time to put it on.
So this is the dashboard, which I think you can get to from peeragogy.org. But
Oops, Joe is missing now. No? Yes. Oh, Lisa, did you want to introduce yourself while Joe gets back on?
I just said, basically, my name is Lisa. I'm just from LA, and I'm interested in Peeragogy as it relates to business and business environments.
Yep. And Julia, you want? Oh, Joe, are you back?
Yeah, sorry.
Okay, great.
Too many buttons. Yeah, there.
Welcome.
Oh boy, she really is talking.
I know, it's pretty creepy.
Yeah, nice. I liked what I was seeing.
Yeah. I can put if you want the pattern catalog, it's on my tab. So.
Cool. Yeah, so that's this paper we've been working on. It's going to go into the book as well. So, yeah. So I guess we're just a little bit milling around here, but we should get in for today's meeting. Yeah.
You know, we could get Jim's sort of elevator speech on the recording.
Yeah, Jim, tell us a little bit more about yourself and what you've been interested in, what you've been doing with Jay. That sounds great. And yeah, if you're new, sure. You're our special guest, really. So.
You know, see, a typical new kid on the block's going to get volunteered to do something, right?
Yeah.
Always a dangerous task. Where to start? I probably fit more into Lisa's category in sort of understanding these issues from a business standpoint. I have been a chief learning officer. I've also been faculty at a number of places. I just, in fact, finished teaching a course at DePaul's School for New Learning on organizations as dynamic systems, and have been, the Peeragogy project has sort of been on my peripheral radar screens for a while, and CLO is a Chief Learning Officer for those who don't.
Yeah, no, I love it.
Which is a hat I wore in a professional services firm that I helped start a while back. And it's a broad topic that I've been interested in. Having just finished teaching this course, what interested me is I struggled with sort of how much as an instructor do I lead versus become just sort of primary guide.
Yeah, I was talking with a MIT professor of anthropology actually in the other day, and she had the same issue. She limited her current class to 10 so that she could try some more of these things. But she's an expert on materials used in ancient civilizations in Mexico. So.
It's interesting. The work I was involved with David in open source learning, David Preston, and his thing was basically in response to that question: how much do I lead and how much do I guide or facilitate? And his thing was swing over to complete facilitation and let the students as a learning community pick up the ball, drive their own ship, shift responsibility to them for their learning journey, but facilitate and support them in the doing of it. And I think that the underlying fundamental principle of that's required is trusting the people in the room that they'll pick up that mantle or that ball and run with it, and having faith and belief that they can assume responsibility for their own learning experience. And in his case, it was high school context, right, where skepticism of that happening is completely justified. However, what he found anytime he did it and actually honored the commitment, wasn't paying lip service to it, but actually put the reins in their hands, was miraculous and exponential in terms of level of engagement.
Yeah, well, she said that these are graduate students at MIT, and she said it's so amazing how they really want to hear her lecture. And they're really smart, but they kind of want to, they're expecting that, and she wants to stir it up a little bit.
Well, it's like, that classic industrial, post-industrial education model, students are resources that we're programming, so you want them compliant and submissive and absorptive and authority and control is required if you're going to force feed them what you want to force feed them. So once you're socialized to that, by the time you get to graduate school, that's a pretty tough habit to break, looking for mom or dad to be up front, right?
I'm sure, yeah. Well, Jim, do you find that your students have that expectation? Or?
No, I think that's absolutely the case. I think we spend a lot of time teaching people to, to win the lollipop.
Yeah.
We can ask.
They're extraordinarily uncomfortable if you tell them that, it's up to them to decide what they want, and maybe they don't want a lollipop.
Right.
I just had the daughter of a friend of mine just finished navigating her PhD, and I remember counseling her at one point that that's always the biggest challenge I find, watching students transition from being graduate students to being scholars in training, when they're given that freedom to figure out what they want to do, which we wait until they've been schooled for 20 years before we let them do that, and they get lost.
Mm-hmm.
They don't, and which is why I'm fascinated by this project. Is how do I think part of there's a social part of being lost, but there's a cognitive part of being lost, of sort of not understanding how you put a syllabus together or a reading list together or a group of fellow people on the journey. So we know how to show up in a classroom and take down the assignments and do what we're told.
Yeah, Maria, do you want to pipe up and say something? I'm so happy to see you. That's great.
Hey.
Hi.
Let me turn my camera on.
Yeah.
In a sec. I don't know. It's so hey. Here I am. So that's me. I'm in my office. This is my wall of awesome. I speak with an accent. I'm from Ukraine originally. Okay, that's all introduction. I work in mathematics education. Okay, so that's where a lot of this is happening, this thing. A lot of people, I think, assume that this state of not being free, of being told, is horrible. It's not. People enjoy that. There is didactic contract and all. But also, I think I would like to be careful about calling it a drug or anything negative, that state of unfreedom, that state of following, because I think we all need some of that in our lives. We need to follow somebody we trust. We need to do that meditative exercise state. When we crochet, or when we exercise, or when we cook, or when we do mathematical little exercises sometimes. It's something we need probably every day, that relaxed state of mind, but it turns off your executive functions, so you can't do decision making too well. You can't pose problems in that state. You can't choose too well. You can't decide. And that's where I think in my field math anxiety comes from, where people try to enter that state of just follow the leader and then problem solving. You can't do problem solving in that state. You just need to know. You need to know what state is appropriate to what activity. That's just something I wanted to point out, that it's not the state itself that's evil somehow. It's bad to put people into it by force, of course, but also it's bad to try to solve problems or make conjectures or do any of those higher order things in the simple state of mind.
So the facilitator has to be skillful in taking that, helping the students or the learners make that transition. I know Howard was. That's how I got involved in the project, Howard Reingold. And he realized he had a function as a facilitator, but he was very good at sort of gradually moving you toward collaborative editing and presenting and researching on. As you say that, I just remembered the class that I took from him online, and definitely has that skill.
I have a question about. I get the sort of metacognitive distinction between state of mind for learning that you're talking about in terms of sort of assimilating information versus decision making and more sort of discretionary thinking, being at odds with that or in conflict with that. I'm not sure that that's the question as it relates to role of teacher / instructor relative to classroom versus facilitator guide relative to learning community. Because it's the power, authority, contextualization of an industrial education model that underlies the teacher at the front of the room and a hub and spoke kind of dynamic and interaction. And in collaborative learning environment / community, classroom as community, as learning community, people are in a position to help support, facilitate, instruct others, learn and turn around and teach. And I mean, that's a really powerful learning mechanism for strengthening and reinforcing the underlying learning that's happened, right?
If I may comment on that, I think the switching between headspaces or mind states is difficult. It takes resources. And that's why there is a lot of research about that in programming, for example, where the programmers have to focus on their task, and even saying how do you do to 10 people who pass by can mean too much of a switching. So but I think with some of this learning engagement, it can take the help of others to navigate the state. And it doesn't have to be some sage hierarchical order. It just can be somebody who's helping facilitate the transition. Or the group, and can be peers for sure, but I think it's a good point that it doesn't have to be somebody more experienced necessarily. However, experience design has to be with it too. So there may be somebody who's more responsible for the experience design, and they have to be knowledgeable about that.
Hi, Maria, do you hear me? By the way, I'm Joe. We spoke before about math futures and stuff. Do you hear me at all? I wanted to just jump in as a student facilitator. Julio, I think that your microphone is feeding back, so if there's a way for you to mute yourself if you're not talking, and maybe make a note in the chat if you do want to talk. I think that's much better. Thank you. That's good. So I was just saying, hi Maria, we've spoke quite a while ago about the Math Futures project and Planet Math and stuff like that, so I guess you're still at it. Since there's different people here who are kind of new, the question is, I guess one other question is, how could we be helpful to you with this Peeragogy project and stuff? I mean, of course, you're welcome to come along and talk about ideas. That's often maybe the best way, but it's a good question to ask what we can do. And Julio, one more time, you can keep it muted. I don't know what's going on, because it causes a lot of echo, and it unmutes itself. Maybe that's fixed now. Thank you. So yeah, those are the questions for the new people. Maria, Jim, yeah. What does Peeragogy mean to you? Would it get you excited to come along to something like this? And how can we continue to help or do anything useful at all?
I made a thing today. Well, not today, over the few months, I guess. We made a thing with several people. And these are some principles of making things your own. And that's for my project, Natural Math. And I think I think what happens here is my dream is for every learner to have their own curriculum, but socially shareable. And that's where it comes, where you need peers for all of that. You need peers to make bridges from what you do to what other people are doing. You need peers to make things happen. It's more complex. It's much more complex actually than everybody learning from the same curriculum. So it will take a village for sure, and that's my interest in peer learning and peer communities. So I just wanted to share